Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second session in the fourth Digital Transformation of Government Conference. I'm your host, Bob Wiseman from the University of Ottawa. Today, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Yolanda Martinez present. She's the overall lead for a program called GovStack, which she'll be explaining to you in this presentation. She's from the Digital Development Bureau at the International Telecommunications Union, which is part of the United Nations. She's a digital government and development expert. She's been working there for a great deal of time, and she works for ITU and helping governments accelerate the digitization of government services and their overall digital transformation plans. She has extensive experience in digital development, digital government, open data, and she has many digital skills. And she's led a lot of the interdisciplinary studies as interdisciplinary teams as well. Yolanda has a PhD in Knowledge and Information Society and a Master's in Public Policy and Management from Carnegie Mellon and a Bachelor in Information Technology. She's doing some really great work globally through the United Nations to help nations that are starting their digital transformation journey. So without further ado, Yolanda, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robert, for the invitation to be here, and welcome everyone. It's a great honor to have the opportunity to share with all of you progress on GovStack. We have the opportunity also to share last year's at the conference. So hopefully, if you attended last year's session, you're gonna see significant progress and new opportunities to engage and to collaborate. So a quick recap for those of you who GovStack is new. This is a multi-stakeholder community-driven initiative. It was founded in 2019 by the government of Estonia, the government of Germany through GIC office, the International Telecommunications Union, and the Digital Impact Alliance. So we have 4 partners, a governance committee that defines and provide guidance to the initiative. So I'm one of the leads, but you will have the opportunity to get to know the different team members, I'm sure in different fora. And the problem that GovStack is looking at is to help countries work in a more integrated way. And as all of us know, coming from a public policy background, in my case also as a practitioner, having the opportunity to lead the National Digital Agenda in Mexico and also at the local level, integrating and creating the necessary coordination mechanisms among government entities is a huge challenge in the public sector. Having the right political support, having the right institutional mandate at the digital agency level to have a transversal capability to set digital service standards, to align within digital teams in the different government ministries, the capability to bring them together in CIO consoles, to discuss how to implement the agenda, to streamline service design according to user journey across different sectors. It's definitely a best practice, but a challenge when it comes to implementation. And hopefully, with GovStack, you will find the opportunity, if you're currently working and coordinating implementations in different settings with public sectors, of great value in facilitating this integration and collaboration among public institutions. We also focus a lot in making ICT investment more cost efficient. And this is relevant because as we move forward with having a lot more technology available for governments, having the right ICT policy and ICT procurement guidelines becomes very relevant. And GovStack helps by providing technical specifications that are standard-based, facilitates aligning investments into reusable software components that can be reused by different government entities. The third element that GovStack looks to facilitate is the challenge of scaling. We all know that when governments are starting to digitize a few years ago, a few entities were the pioneers because they have enough technical stuff, because they also have access to a lot of resources, usually tax agencies or trade agencies, because it was highly attached to increasing revenue. But as technology became more accessible, scaling was possible. And then the challenge became, okay, everyone is buying different types of technologies and not necessarily we having a coherent or a good governance way. It was streamlined certain investments in reusable software components, then scaling can be reached at a greater speed because everyone can focus on understanding the user needs in streamlining service design and reusing key software components that we call building blocks in the initiative to make that escalation faster. And the fourth problem that we help countries through GovStack is the coordination, making sure that as we implement, and we'll see more coming forward through the implementation framework, we facilitate incorporating a GovStack approach at the policy level, at the enterprise architecture level, and at the shared services policy level in government. And GovStack started as a result of publications launched that is called SDG Digital Investment Framework. And in that publication, ITU and DIAL did a very extensive research looking at the most common government digital services in all governments around the world. And within that analysis, 23 reusable software components were identified as the most common functionalities in any government service, being how I identify the user, how do I manage my registries and my registration processes in the different sector domains registries, how I exchange information, how I handle payments, of course, what policies of security I implement as part of my ICT policy, how I manage consent, especially as more and more countries are having data protection frameworks and regulations to apply and implement as part of the digitization strategy, how to best leverage messaging mechanisms to diversify the number of channels in the different notifications mechanisms, and not only by email, but also by text and many other. Scheduling, which is depending on the type of sector, demanded services, especially for countries that are transitioning for a lot more in-person services and those that have more elements to do the service online. Workflow, key to architecting the business process behind any user journey. Geographic information systems, key today. It doesn't matter the sector. In marketplace, they gather a lot of importance after COVID-19. Recommendations on cloud and hosting to run microservices architecture that facilitates implementation of this approach. User interface guidelines and e-signature. And in pipeline, hopefully working through different countries together, demand for developing these technical specifications is analytics and business intelligence, e-learning, reporting and dashboards, and content management. And just as a quick recap, we emphasize a lot on the concept of building blocks as genetic defined software components that in combination provide key functionalities to facilitate genetic workflows common across multiple sectors. And by using these Lego blocks and according to a well-designed user journey based on user needs, live events, can really streamline the experience of citizens working with governments. And so far, we have already more than 11 technical specifications public. The technical specification is a document that describes what are the key functionalities, what are the most common APIs that are required to enable that functionality to connect with other building blocks, either within the GovStack series or with countries that already have a lot of investment in other type of technological stack and would like to complement their current stack with one of GovStack building blocks. So right now we are working in wave 3, and we hope to have the release of these technical specifications in September, October this year. We also work a lot with a micro services structure, always thinking how countries can leverage what they have, but start switching to this microservice architecture as new building blocks are coming into their stack, or as new updates from legacy to new type of technology is coming into the agenda of the different countries. And the objective is very simple, to encourage countries to think of this approach as common applications that are connected through an information mediator a component to enable digital government service end-to-end. We focus a lot on a whole of government approach, meaning really understanding that every government service has a user journey based on user needs, on live events, and that within that user journey, there are many sectors that are cross that need to identify the user, to do some checking of prerequisites to be able to give a birth certificate or a driver license or a construction permit. But in the backend, even though it's a different logic for the service and a different need that it's looking to solve, the backend is very straightforward. I need to identify the user, so I use the identity building block. I need to go into a series of steps to grant a construction permit, so that is architected using the workflow building block. I need to grant a signature that goes together with the construction permit to guarantee the legal validation of that document. So all those different building blocks also share common workflows. How do I register a user? What is the metadata for an identity? What is my metadata for a verifiable credentials? So those common workshops can be used to enable many different digital services. It doesn't matter the sector. And that's how we focus our work. Within the ecosystem of digital public goods and digital public infrastructure, building blocks are focused on generic components among many different DPGs today available in the DIA catalog that are interoperable and that are generic in nature and ready to connect to other building blocks, as we saw. How we have a structure our offering to the different community and stakeholders. Number one is through a government technical specification document. I would say not only government, we call it GovStack, but the technical specification can actually be used by government, by startups, but anyone participating in a GovTech ecosystem. The more standard-based the development of different building blocks, the easier it is to reach global interoperability. So that's something that is in one of our core activities. Take the guesswork of drafting that technical specification, including their corresponding APIs. GovTech is the GovStack sandbox, which will be ready by the end of this year. And the objective there is to have a very agile and easy to follow demo environment for the community to learn about this approach and to very easily grasp what do we mean by integrating different functionalities to enable an end-to-end government services, focusing especially in the sandbox on certain steps within a journey or certain integrations that are key according to the use case that we are prioritizing with the different countries that we're working with, that can benefit from having a test environment ready to go with the objective to save them time in scaling this type of approach. The third element is GovLearn, and we're very excited to share that we're working in the development of different e-learning materials that are going to be available in Atingi, and two elements of creating capacity by enhancing and encouraging peer learning. We do this with two elements: the CIO Digital Leaders Forum, which is a space where CIOs share their experiences according to different topics. We opened this year the series of the CIO Digital Leaders Forum in WSIS, with the main topic being AI-enabled services. Then we host another one of this forum in Zimbabwe, Africa, during the Transform Africa Summit, with different countries sharing about their data transformation journey. We also do this to different communities of practice. So we're about to launch the Gender Community of Practice in June 22nd, and to different challenges, like my back today, which is the Women in GovTech challenge, focus on creating capabilities within women participating in digital government to design a service, implementing the GovStack approach in their country. And the fourth element is the Gov Exchange. This is a global marketplace that facilitates the exchange of DPGs, opportunities for procurement, for connecting with the DPG community globally in a platform that is very easy to use and to compare for policymakers different type of DPGs available. So this is how we embrace our offering, and we have different ways to collaborate with countries around this offering. Either countries are using the technical specifications to update their current stack, other countries are engaged and working hand in hand with GovStack in implementing GovStack in priority services. Others are looking into deep dive and strengthening their capabilities about certain technical specifications, because they're in the process of or looking to update and align their stack to that of GovStack. And we run everything through a GovStack implementation playbook that gets updated as we go with the implementations, and that we invite everyone to contribute. So in terms of the first element of work stream, which is the technical specifications, I would like to invite all of you to get to know the technical specification, the APIs that are accompanying this exercise. We really want to save time, and I come from a very practitioner background, so just to think about running a tender for a certain ICT asset usually takes from 6 months to a year, because all the different procedures that needs to be put in place according to different public procurement guidelines. So by having the technical specification and the API defined already, we look at really accelerating this process for countries that are looking to either develop their own or run a procurement process of certain capabilities from which GovStack already have a technical specification. The second work stream, as I was sharing with you, is the GovStack Sandbox, and this is a capability that really put a lot of effort, first of all, in the front end to really make it very easy for anyone exploring what do we mean by developing a digital service using different building blocks integrated in a very seamless manner. You're going to be able to see in the sandbox, for example, use cases. In this case, a conditional social cash transfer program, and users of the sandbox can select, okay, I would like to see this flow from an end user perspective, and you can select that, or I would like to see this use case from a public servant perspective and see how I'm a public servant, I'm going to be able to evaluate that the person is qualified to receive certain benefits, and how that is going to be granted. Also here in the right-hand side, you can see that as we move forward in the use case workflow, the users of the sandbox can see which building block is being used at each step of the journey of the specific use case. So I think this is also a very important element for any digital team that is creating the capabilities or implementing or updating building blocks in their stack to showcase why this approach is relevant, either in procurement committee meetings, or if they're working in updating their legislation, which is key in any process of digital transformation. They can very easily present how this translates into more simplified, agile way of business to interact with government in a very visual demo environment. The GovLearn, as I was mentioning, I have different initiatives in place. One that is open right now is the Women in GovTech Challenge. I would like to see many of you applying, either encouraging your students, if they are women working in government, to apply as participants, of any of you that would like to participate as mentors in the areas of service design, enterprise architecture, product manager, solutions architects, RegTech experts. We work under the principle of multidisciplinary teams, designing services using the building block approach, and getting a deep understanding of the technical specification of the service design based on the assist, the to-be, simplification opportunities, and live events and user journeys. Best projects are going to be featured in the World Super Information Society in 2020. 4 applications are opened until August 31st. We're going to go into a selection time, and the bootcamp starts in November, and it's for 8 weeks. So I hope to see a lot of you joining. The Gov Exchange that you see, and there is a prototype already available in Dial website, is a very important exchange functionality to facilitate digital government teams analyzing what DPGs are available, how the functionalities are compared, what are the requests for proposals currently opening, what I have the opportunity to propose my DPG, what sustainable development goals are those DPGs helping to solve. So we're very much looking forward into incorporating also the white level version of this exchange into GovStack to facilitate for any digital team to have a very easy way to identify digital building blocks that are GovStack compliance. We check and emphasize a lot the compliance, because a lot of the work that goes into the GovTech element is the test harness to check the alignment between current DPGs and API specifications in GovStack. And how we approach the implementation. Very important, we really emphasize the whole government approach, meaning working with countries and understanding their digital transformation strategy, reviewing if within the digital transformation strategy a GovStack approach is reflected, and if it's not reflected, we work with them to understand their context, their needs, and how to best complement their current regulatory framework with this approach in mind. And we usually do it at the digital transformation level, or if they have a digital government policy or roadmap, which is key, and also at the enterprise architecture level. You're going to have the opportunity to hear from Hani Eskandar in one of the work streams about enterprise architecture approach into government digital transformation later today. In the implementation aspect of GovStack, we emphasize a lot service design based on user needs, on user journeys, and on live events. And we work a lot with countries in identifying and getting estimates on how many services they have, how many of those services in their service catalog can be actually simplified through interoperability, meaning that you don't need to digitize all the services in your catalog, because most probably 80% of those services is to ask you information that other agency needs to actually provide you with a service. And usually those prerequisites are a consultation to a specific registry that the government already have in place at the different government entity level. So we work a lot in really first understanding the user journey, identifying the pain points, what can be simplified, a very streamlined to-be user journey, and then into prototyping using this approach. Certain use cases are prioritized to be showcased in the GovStack sandbox, so other countries can also see certain steps within the journey that were prioritized by a specific country to be tested. We also support in the procurement process. We're about to launch in the coming weeks two open calls for DPGs for e-cabinet and construction permit capabilities. And we also accompany the countries in their scaling up of this approach. We work a lot in a co-designed way, meaning that we do everything according to the country context, to the country needs, in close collaboration to the digital agency or authority that is in the country. We co-designed all the roadmap and work streams together, because that's also the way to build capacity. And the approach to do that is always to prioritize one or two services in pre-identified sectors. And with these pre-identified sectors, with different requests for information that we have publicly available in the GovStack playbook, we guide them into the process of prioritizing. Or if you have 5,000 services in your service catalog, which one or two are super key to demonstrate the value of this approach that can help you reach scalability by following this approach again and again and again in the rest of the services of the catalog. We emphasize a lot simplification to make sure that digital teams can focus in certain exemplar services, that digitizing them would really create a very different experience for the citizens with the user. We work a lot in an assist-to-be methodology with a lot of assessments of users techniques in place. We are right now with current implementations in the prototyping phase as the GovStack sandbox is being built, and with product and technical specifications showcasing the integration as part of this effort to orchestrate the service and to have a functional prototype release in the GovStack sandbox, but also as a full-fledged service in the countries that we work with. So this is our typical implementation journey, always customized and calibrated according to the country context and needs. Current engagements and different examples to give an idea of the variety of opportunities to collaborate. With Djibouti, they started their prioritization exercise with already 10 sectors that were presented as the elements to run within those 10 prioritization exercise based on feasibility and on impact, and e-cabinet and construction permits were the services that were prioritized. Right now, we finish the service design proposal, and the implementation is ongoing, with the first step being the open call for DPGs. Egypt is a very strong country in their mandate. So the ministry is currently updating certain building blocks in their stack and using GovStack as a reference. They prioritize having a deep dive into the training of the digital team with priority building blocks that are key for them: identity, information, mediator payments. And they also looking to complement GovStack with a new building block that they developed that is called Vault. With Rwanda, the collaboration covers from the co-design of the e-waste legislation, the definition of the financial mechanism that needs to be put in place to enable the implementation of the e-waste policy, and the design of the digital service to facilitate compliance with the e-waste legislation. So it's a very comprehensive, holistic collaboration with Rwanda to implement a new regulatory framework for e-waste, but also supported with a digital service design that uses the GovStack approach for the facilitation of the implementation of that new regulatory framework. Ukraine is a very active country in terms of sharing their stack, which they have developed in a very short time for current conditions. So we're working with Ukraine digital team to incorporate their e-registrations platform as a digital public goods GovStack compliance system. And Kenya, Somalia, and Djibouti, which is also part of the IGDC program, a strong collaboration mechanism among different partners supported by Team Europe initiative to work with the 3 countries in prioritizing one of the services, working with them to co-design their implementation roadmap. And we're in the process of, for Djibouti, with construction permits and the cabinet doing the open call, with Somalia in the process of preparing the open call for the priority services they selected, and with Kenya as well. So how we manage and how we share all the knowledge that is generated as we move forward with the country implementation, we do it through the GovStack playbook. And I invite all of you to do a deep dive into this tool. Is literally updated every day. We use it as we move forward with the countries to explain using other countries' examples, concepts that go from the regulatory aspect, the enterprise architecture aspect, the service design component, and we are very much looking forward to your inputs in terms of maybe good reference, good use cases that you're having in academia, which is a great opportunity to also keep learning. We are in the process of putting together the first draft of GovStack research agenda. So as soon as we have it ready, we will be sharing it with Dr. Robert to also amplify the message to the greater research community. So in short, how the community can engage with GovStack. When I say the community, is not only the countries, but in this case, the research community as well. We're very interested in reference implementations, the opportunity to document how these use cases really make a difference from the time of service design to market, meaning launching the service using the GovStack approach. So if you're currently working with different countries, or your PhD students, your master's students as part of the program, we're very much interested in knowing more. To give you an example, with Caltech University in Tallinn, Caltech is part of the ITU Academy Certified Centers. So they are currently developing a course around service design and GovStack approach. And we have the opportunity to collaborate with master students. So one master student actually just defended her thesis 2 weeks ago, and her thesis was about how we put together the playbook. We have other students participating in research papers. We're about to present those in June in San Francisco. So we're really active in always merge GovStack with real implementation and producing high quality knowledge products that can allow to amplify and to share with the different members of the community. Technical contributions. Also, this is a very open call invitation for all of you that are interested maybe in a particular building block, because it's the type of functionality that you do more research on. Digital identity, payments, information mediator. We work in the technical specification definition through a technical working group that is open for anyone interested to join. So this is another very important vertical to contribute with GovStack and also gain from GovStack, and learning and exchange. We are very active in the CIO Digital Leaders Forum, in the Women in GovTech Challenge, in different communities of practice, in the research agenda that we're about to launch. So we're very much looking forward for this engagement. And with this, I close to open for Q&A. If you go into the QR, hopefully you're reading the QR, you're going to be able to go into the GovStack website. And if you go into this QR, you're going to be able to open the link to the GovStack implementation playbook. So thank you, Dr. Robert, for the opportunity to present on behalf of the 4 partners that form GovStack in this year's conference.
Well, thank you ever so much, Yolanda, for a great presentation. Really appreciate that. And I just feel it's an extremely worthwhile exercise that you're working on, and I've had the privilege of working with your folks for the last year or so on this. I'll ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind. What are the factors that have affected the priority of the stack application services development? So how do you determine what has to be worked on, and how do you coordinate between the various governments? But one question at a time. How do you determine what gets worked on when, or is it strictly a volunteer effort? Go ahead, please.
The way the initiative structured the work, and I would refer to the presentation, was to the most common building blocks in all government services. So the way the specifications were developed was structured in 3 waves. So the first wave were, of course, identity and authentication as the primary building block to grant access to a user to a digital service. Then digital registries and registration, because it's the core of what government activity does, meaning registries of driver license, registries of population, registries of land, registries of environmental permits. So having solid registries is key in enabling interoperability and in enabling streamlined experiences. Information mediator as one of the challenges of many governments, and for many different factors. Some governments have a lot of constraints in the data protection laws that not necessarily facilitates interoperability. Others lack the transversal mandate to set the standards to the other entities on how to enable APIs in the different registries and how to validate information or exchange information. Consent management being primary, a very important transversal building block because of data protection elements. So I strongly recommend everyone that is looking on how to best manage consent and facilitate auditing of the good management of that consent to review the specifications. So those priorities were set up when the initial work of the specifications are. 2 main documents. One, the security guidelines apply to all building blocks. The architecture document as well. And since you also referred to different collaborations, GovStack has been collaborating with the Open Group in the enterprise architecture document that is going to be released soon. Keep in mind that this is an ongoing process, so we already have a lot of comments for the incoming publication, but that's the logic of the exercise. Most common building blocks, and then they get prioritized according to these 3 ways.
Okay, great, thank you. We got another question. How does culture and change management fit into the digital transformation strategy, GovStack?
We embrace change management when we are working in the implementation framework by always co-designing with the digital authority and the service owners of the priority services that were identified as reference implementation of GovStack. And we have found that by working in the open, going into the country and embracing a presentation of the program with all the different stakeholders facilitates the buy-in, because they see themselves as part of the process, and also they have a say on the prioritization exercise. So I think a good example to share is, for example, Djibouti, when we had the opportunity to review the 10 pre-identified sectors. We ran together with the Ministry of Digital Innovation, which is the champion of the country, a workshop with participants of the 10 entities that prioritize these pre-identified sectors. And it was a very good way through the workshops to put all the digital teams to map the assist of the services that were a priority in their own sector, then to go into a designed process and map an initial to be, and within analyzing how that initial to be could look like, map the impact and the feasibility. Do I have already enough resources in the country to digitize ABC services, DS, other set of services. And doing this exercise of mapping and prioritizing collectively really helps bringing everyone on board. So when we finally got the two services prioritized for recovery and construction permits, all the implementation that has been taking place from doing a deep detailed mapping of the assist, identifying the pain points for the citizens and the users, doing these workshops with the users, going to the offices to run the user journey with the user, had really allowed us to create empathy and the right cooperation that is needed with a government entity that is transitioning to a service that is digital, with them being the main actors of this design process. So I think in change management, this is key, because if we don't co-design with the users, but also with the service owners, it's very hard to understand the context and the needs of the country. So that's why we focus a lot in co-designing everything, agendas, how to run the sessions, mapping all the different stakeholders involved in a service, with the sponsors of the projects that are usually the digital authorities of the country, and that's key in also building the capability, right? All of us, I think, learn better by doing, and being the principal agent in the activities that we're running in the country. So that's how we are approaching this. For certain engagements like Horn of Africa, we have certain partners, in this case FIAP, to come and develop more structure training on change management, but it's a very important element in all engagements that we do.
Yeah, thank you, Yolanda. And just while this slide is up, is just that the top part, the enterprise architecture, is acting as the go-between, the structured analysis portion that links policy and vision into the actual building of the building blocks. So we're using that as a way of approaching it from a whole of government approach, and also making sure that people are aware of what's happening. We got some better questions there for you, Yolanda. And just as a plug for some future, this afternoon, we're having two individuals discuss the actual content of the GovStack and how the building blocks are put together. That's at 12:30 by Hania Skander and Vikesh Maduri, the GovStack architecture content creation. And then at 15:20 hours, we've got some folks from Global Affairs Canada and Isaac that are going to be talking about the Rwanda experience with respect to implementation. So we have some more, case studies of where it's worked. Now, next question, Yolanda. You're not getting off that easy there. So, okay. To get buy-in from other countries, can you elaborate a bit on how does the security framework in the context of digital transformation in the United Nations focus on safeguarding, say, human rights, data protection, privacy, digital identity, surveillance technology, online violence and harassment?
Yes, as I mentioned in the building blocks specifications, there is one associated with security. And of course, technical specification in GovStack as are standard-based, meaning and you would see in the technical specifications, all the different reference frameworks or standards that we look at when putting together the GovStack technical specification. This specification, especially the security one, needs to be adopted in the country and also calibrated and complemented with a specific legislation applicable in the country that we're working with. General design principles that we work with in GovStack, of course, embrace the digital development principles that were co-designed by Dial and that we complemented to incorporate service design elements, and of course, secure by design, accessible by design, embrace these very important factors. And as we go into implementation, also becomes very relevant, and we have an entire section in the playbook to make sure that we have diversity and a multidisciplinary team. And a lot of the work that we do with governments is putting together a digital team with different skills in the table, from service designers, from security experts, from solution architects, from GovTech experts, because a lot of service design comes with updates into current regulation, because the service, as you incorporate different building blocks and especially interoperability, gets simplified to the maximum. So that requires a lot of updates in regulation to reflect that seamless interaction, but also providing the legal certainty within that interaction. People can have the perception that because I'm taking 10 print documents to the office of the tax agency is more secure. When in digital, the tax agency already do all that backend checking, or if countries already have electronic invoicing in place, basically your taxes are pre-calculated, and easier to just check if the number makes sense and you get your money back in a few days or hours. No? Before, everything used to be paper-based. So switching from that, not only in tax, but in any other sector, education, health, economy, agriculture, it's an important change, and security comes in place when making sure that we have the right digital inclusion approach. It's easy to say, right? But that implies people recognizing how to use the digital signature, people embracing and internalizing how do I authenticate, what is the difference between the different authentication mechanisms, why before I used to have to turn in this document and now everything is checked through interoperability. That transition requires a lot of digital inclusion efforts for citizens to be aware, and also security best practices in how to set up your password, how to follow up what transactions are being done using your name or your credentials, to make sure that we have more conscious users and what is in place, right? When you are responsible also to owning your own data and accepting who can access to, if you're using verifiable credentials, or you're granting access to managing your data in certain sectors. So I think it's a very important element, not only from the design of the service perspective, but also from the capabilities that the user needs to develop to better benefit from this effort.
So Yolanda, just to, and I'm trying to summarize some of the other questions coming up, would you say is that right now is that the GovStack building blocks are not meant to be used out of the boxes? They're more patterns for creating detailed building blocks based on every nation's specific needs. So they're more patterns for creating building blocks internally, but they encapsulate a great many best practices.
Yes, and as much as possible, we encourage everyone, and I say this in ex-CIO, the more standard-based, the easier it is to interoperate within your own agencies and also within other countries. So yes, there are technical specifications, standard-based technical specifications that is easier if a country doesn't have any specific building blocks to just embrace it, but of course, each country is different. That's why it's so relevant as we go into country implementations to, of course, the country make a cross-check with different regulatory frameworks, with different stack to connect. Do they require adapters? What type of adapters? But as much as possible, if the specification fits for purpose and is kept as it is, the easier it is also to integrate. But at the end, it's up to every country how to best complement their stack using these technical specifications of building blocks, because in the sandbox by the end of the year, we're going to have 5 building blocks also available for countries to explore and to reuse. Those building blocks are going to be identity, payments, information consent, information mediator, and registry. So we really encourage, and as we do open calls, as we have in next week, we expect to see the DPG catalog growing with their corresponding technical specifications, this time as part of country implementation. So we are very much looking forward to this stage of the initiative.
Okay, great. Now, is there, and this will be the last question, do you have any intent to have a shared service that other countries can basically access directly? In other words, instantiations of the building blocks that people don't have to build it, they can just basically use a shared service based on from GovStack?
Yes, that's the whole objective of the GovStack Exchange, to have a service catalog. Usually those services can, if they comply with the Data Public Goods Alliance standard, they can be called a DPG, but this is basically shared services that other countries can reuse. In GovStack Sandbox, 100% GovStack compliance are going to be these 5: identity, payments, information mediator, registries, and information consent. So we strongly encourage everyone that would like, in the different work that you're doing, if any of these, not only the technical specification, but the actual software capability or shared service, as Dr. Robert was also referring to, that's the whole objective. And just for context, ITU ran those tenders and it took us a year. So when you think about each country developing the capability to launch tenders, to build their own stack from zeros, it takes time. It can be done for sure, but it takes time. The objective with GovStack is to save time to any digital team, allow them to review the technical specification, review the software, the shared service are also going to be available, of course, customize it, and start accelerating the digitization of the government services using this approach.
Okay, so are you cooperating with other governments to provide a set of services that can be shared globally as distinct from within the country only?
Yes. One example is Ukraine. Ukraine is making adjustments to the registries platform, which is the main backbone to enable services. They have a very good app that is called DIA app. I found the program that you're going to have the colleagues from Ukraine presenting. It's an amazing what they have done. I really encourage everyone to not lose that session because it's extremely inspiring. And the registration platform, which is the backend of DIA, is what they're working at with GovStack, in collaboration with GovStack. So they're going to make registrations from Ukraine's GovStack compliance. Just to give you an idea, doing the test harness exercise, a compliance process exercise, registrations from Ukraine has 70% alignment. So they're going to finish the adjustment, and that shared service is going to be available for hopefully many digital teams around the world to be used.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ed. So we just had a fascinating exposition of the Ukrainian, excuse me, of the Ukrainian. Valeria just presented that to Deputy Minister. Yeah, there's one other question there, if you don't mind just asking. Sorry, we only have time for one more question. Are you working to work with other access to NGOs, non-government organizations as well?
Yes, we are part of the DPI ecosystem. So we have an entire partnerships collaboration mechanisms in place with the colleagues like the Data Public Goods Alliance, USAID, that also supports a lot of implementation, eGov Foundation of India, which is an amazing work that they have done using DPGs to accelerate the digitization, especially of local governments in India. And we are very much looking forward for other collaborations with civil society, with academia, of course, with the private sector through the different GovTech ecosystems in the country, because this is a digital ecosystem effort, and we're really motivated and committed to make GovStack accelerate the digitization journey of countries, having always in mind the citizens need to develop and experience a completely different approach into how they access services. And today we have extremely good practices among many countries around the world on how this approach is really adding value into how they interact with governments. And just to close, we run every year. This year was the first edition of the GovStack, which is a special prize on digital service design. We had applications from 50 countries from all over the world and great use cases. It was very hard to select just one winner. So big recognition to the government of Moldova. They won this year. Their shared services platform is called FOT. And it's amazing to see. And I invite everyone to the GovStack website to review the different use cases. We pre-selected 10. We prepare a nice blog post entry to showcase our work. We're going to having knowledge cafes, interviewing the CIOs of the 10 finalists to share their approach to digitization of government services. So it's very motivating to see the more and more digital government teams in government and all levels of government, not only central government, are embracing this, and we hope to see more applications in this year, opening up the prize in September.
Well, and can I just ask one quick question before we wrap up? Are you GovStack? Is that coordinated with GovTech from the World Bank?
Yes, of course. We work in a lot of collaboration with the GovTech platform in the World Bank, especially because World Bank has a very strong presence in countries that are interested in GovStack, and usually with a very significant investment in digital transformation projects that are associated with GovStack building blocks. So we work a lot with World Bank, with the Inter-American Development Bank, with USAID, with co-develop, and with the G20, which presidency has India this year, and next year is going to be Brazil, people-centered internet. So open group for topics of enterprise architecture and academia. So this is a collective effort, and we foresee a lot more collaboration moving forward.
Thank you ever so much, Yolanda, for taking the time to present today. I think everybody agrees it was a very worthwhile presentation, and we wish you all the best with GovStack. And we look forward to Hani presenting a bit more of that in the afternoon. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, folks, for all of you, thank you very much for your questions and thanks for attending. I'm going to close this session. We're going to stop recording. And then after that, I want you to join the next session that's coming up, where Catherine Luello, the CIO for the Government of Canada, is going to be one of the speakers. Okay, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, take care.